There are games you look at and think, yeah, that one's not for me, and then when you finally decide to try them, they become some of your all-time favorites. It happens to everyone. Sometimes it's the art style, sometimes it's the genre, but in the end, these are the ones that catch you completely off guard. And today, I want to show you exactly that. The titles I almost skipped, but that ended up leaving a permanent mark on me. Before we start, if you can, give that little boost, subscribe to the channel. Every new person helps a lot to keep the project alive and bring more amazing lists and discoveries for you. Drop a like, hit the bell, and tell me in the comments, what's a game you almost skipped but ended up loving? Alright then, let's get started. Kena Bridge of Spirits was one of those games I almost ignored because it seemed too simple. But just a few minutes in, I realized there was something magical there. The way it blends emotion, spirituality, and adventure creates one of the most touching journeys in recent years. It's a story about loss, forgiveness, and connection, told with a gentleness few games ever reach. Everything feels handcrafted, like there's a heartbeat behind every detail. The gameplay mixes combat, platforming, and puzzles perfectly. The fighting system is light but precise, demanding rhythm and focus at the right moments. The fluid animations and responsive controls make everything feel natural. The little spirits that follow you aren't just cute. They're essential to both the story and the battles. Every new ability adds meaning to the journey. The visuals are breathtaking. The living forest, the ancient ruins, and the lighting effects build a world that looks straight out of a Pixar movie. But what really stands out is the soul, the care in every expression, every movement, every silence. There's a constant, gentle sadness that follows you from beginning to end. Bridge of Spirits is about courage, empathy, and the strength to move on. It's impossible not to feel something while playing. It makes you smile and tear up almost at the same time. And that's why today, I can't believe I almost let this little masterpiece slip by. Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden seemed like just another ghost game until I played it. What I found was one of the most human stories I've ever seen in a video game. It's a journey about love and loss, but also guilt, redemption, and the weight of our choices. The game isn't afraid to face pain head-on, and every dialogue hits with real emotion. It's not just about hunting spirits, it's about deciding their fate and your own. The gameplay is rich and layered. Combat mixes physical strikes and spiritual powers with incredible flow, demanding both adaptation and strategy. Narrative decisions shape the story deeply, and each mission carries emotional weight. The bond between the main characters drives everything, and understanding their motives becomes as important as defeating your enemies. The world is dark yet beautiful. Mist-covered woods, deserted villages, and forgotten temples build a haunting, mysterious atmosphere. The constant contrast between spirit and flesh gives every scene tension and beauty at once. It's a world that breathes guilt and hope. Ghosts of New Eden stays with you long after the credits. It makes you think about love, sacrifice, and the consequences of every choice. It's a mature story told with honesty and heart. And now, I can't believe I almost missed something so powerful and human. Bramble, the Mountain King, looked harmless, almost sweet, but within minutes, you realize there's something dark beneath its fairy tale surface. It's a story about fear, innocence, and the cruel side of folklore. The game toys with the contrast between beauty and horror, guiding you through a charming world that slowly turns into a nightmare. It's sad, frightening, and unforgettable. Nothing here feels predictable. Each area hides a new kind of danger, and the pacing shifts from calm to panic with mastery. The puzzles are simple, yet always surrounded by quiet tension. The close camera makes everything feel personal and suffocating. It's one of those games where you grip the controller without noticing. There's something hypnotic in every setting. Nature feels alive yet hostile, and the soundscape of soft, distorted tones reinforces the constant sense of mourning. The creatures you meet aren't just monsters, they're reflections of pain and guilt, portrayed with rare symbolism. The visuals are pure enchantment, even horror feels poetic. The Mountain King is a descent into childhood's darkness and the shadows of grief. It doesn't rely on cheap scares, it makes you fear something far more real, sadness itself. Delicate and cruel at once, it feels like an old tale whispered in your ear, and when it ends, the silence that follows is what haunts you most. Evil West is the kind of game that reminds you when fun came before complexity. A bloody, electric western where cowboys fight demons with comic book flair. It's wild, loud, and ridiculously satisfying. What looked like a generic action game turns out to be a stylish powerhouse full of energy and attitude. Each fight feels new. Heavy punches, rapid shots, and bursts of gore create an addictive rhythm. The skill system offers insane combinations, keeping the combat exciting without ever losing control. It balances chaos and precision perfectly, making every encounter feel like a choreographed scene made to be remembered. Between battles, the scenery steals the spotlight. Ruined cathedrals, crimson-lit caverns, and storm-struck deserts create a world built on pure spectacle. The creature designs are grotesque yet captivating, and the lighting transforms every fight into a cinematic event. It feels like a supernatural western directed by Tarantino himself. Evil West knows exactly what it wants to be. It doesn't aim for depth, just pure delicious action with the charm of old-school classics. It's brutal, witty, and confident. A reminder that games are also about feeling power in your hands. And after playing it, you can't help but think, how did I almost skip this? The Darkness 2 is the kind of game that blindsides you. Beneath the blood and chaos lies a dark story about love and destruction. It's more than a shooter, it's a slow descent into the mind of someone losing control. The contrast between godlike power and the emotional burden of using it creates a striking conflict. It's not just brutal, it's tragic. Every fight explodes with style and insanity. The game lets you shoot, tear enemies apart, and wield shadow creatures like extensions of your own rage. The blend of weapons and powers creates a wild, fast-paced rhythm. Combat is violent, intense, and visually stunning, chaos with meaning, mirroring the character's inner breakdown. The story shines in its quiet moments, not its gunfire. Amid the violence, fragments of humanity, memory, and pain appear. The calm scenes reveal someone torn between guilt and obsession, and that's where the game truly hits. That mix of brutality and melancholy makes it unique, evoking anger and pity at once. The Darkness 2 is a storm of emotion hiding inside an action game. The cel-shaded art gives identity to the madness, and the writing carries unusual weight for the genre. It's brutal, tragic, and brilliant, a title many ignored, but one that stands as one of the most powerful stories of the 2010s. The first Berserker, Khazan, is pure rage in motion. From the first seconds, it's clear this isn't about subtlety, it's about strength, fury, and redemption. Every strike feels like a statement, every battle like a personal war. It's a tale of vengeance told with weight and purpose, hiding tragedy beneath its violence. The combat system is its beating heart. Heavy hits, fluid combos, and fierce animations give the action a savage rhythm. Each defeated enemy turns anger into release. The game is demanding yet fair, making every impact feel physical. It never lets you breathe, yet it's impossible to put down. The setting amplifies the sense of despair and fallen glory. Blood-stained battlefields, shattered fortresses, and deformed creatures fill a collapsing world. The art direction is aggressive yet graceful, with warm tones giving mythic beauty to destruction. It's brutal artistry you can't look away from. The first Berserker, Khazan turns fury into art. It doesn't ask you to think, it makes you feel. Every fight is an explosion of emotion and technique, creating a spectacle that stays burned in memory. A game for those who understand that violence can also be expression, that sometimes chaos is the only path to peace. The Talos Principle 2 is one of those games that makes you slow down, think, and simply exist inside your own doubt. It doesn't offer urgency or action, it offers reflection. In a future where humanity has been replaced by machines inheriting its questions, it becomes a meditation on what it means to be alive. Every dialogue, every crumbling structure, every silence echoes something profound. It's less about doing and more about understanding. Solving its puzzles feels almost ritualistic. Each challenge feels like decoding a piece of a larger philosophy. It tests logic, but also emotion. There's a strange peace in watching how everything works, realizing that everything has purpose. No puzzle is random. Each one questions consciousness, faith, and free will. And among so many possible answers, what truly matters is the journey to find them. The game is a masterclass in atmosphere. The mix of futuristic architecture and ancient ruins builds a world that seems to exist outside time. The play of natural light, metallic reflections, and organic textures reinforces the contrast between machine and soul. The soundtrack is subtle, almost imperceptible, always present, like a thought repeating itself. It's a world that doesn't speak, but observes, waiting for you to notice your own smallness. The Talos Principle 2 isn't meant to be solved, it's meant to be absorbed. It raises questions about identity and existence with the calm of someone who's accepted not having answers. Philosophical without being pretentious, beautiful without being hollow, a reminder that thinking can also be playing, and that consciousness in any form remains the greatest mystery in the universe. A Plague Tale, Innocence is an emotional punch disguised as an adventure game. It starts as an escape story, but soon reveals a painful journey about bonds, innocence, and survival in a world taken by death. Every step taken in fear, every glance shared between the siblings, carries more weight than 1,000 battles. It's a narrative about humanity amid collapse, told with the sensitivity of someone who understands that horror doesn't always come from monsters. The gameplay is simple, but every moment is lived with intensity. The stealth makes you feel vulnerable, the sound of the rats creates panic, and the small victories feel huge. The game balances tension and tenderness in a rare way, a touch of hope and a sea of despair. It doesn't give you power, it gives you fear and purpose, and it's precisely that fragility that makes it so human, so memorable, and so sincere. The world is a character of its own. Infested streets, ravaged fields, and medieval ruins breathe tragedy. The art direction uses light like poetry. Every ray of sun seems to fight against the rot around you. The shadows aren't just aesthetic, but narrative. They symbolize what remains of faith in the midst of hopelessness. It's a visually overwhelming game, and every environment feels like it's telling a silent story. A Plague Tale is about love in impossible times. It shows that even in absolute darkness, there is still beauty, there is still compassion. It's sad but comforting, cruel but deeply human. One of those rare games that doesn't end when the credits roll, it stays with you like a painful yet precious memory of what it truly means to protect someone. Concrete Genie is one of those games that remind you why art can still heal. It begins simply, with a lonely kid in a forgotten city, and turns into a celebration of creativity. The idea of using magical paint to bring color and life back to a place ruled by sadness is simple, but deeply symbolic. It's about seeing beauty in what seems lost, about turning pain into something that shines. The feeling of painting walls is liberating. Every stroke brings out a piece of joy, and the creatures born from your hands seem to react to your own state of mind. The game invites you to play, to experiment, and to reconnect with imagination. Even without grand battles, there's power in every creative gesture. Creating becomes resistance, and that's what makes it so special. The art direction is pure visual poetry. Vibrant colors tearing through the darkness, neon glows dancing across buildings, and the blend of fantasy and reality create one of the most beautiful aesthetics in recent years. The contrast between gray concrete and living paintings reinforces the central theme: light exists only because there is shadow. Every wall becomes a colorful cry against abandonment. Concrete Genie is light and powerful at the same time. It speaks of isolation, but also of hope and reconciliation. It's the kind of game that makes you smile when it wants you to think, and think when it wants you to smile. A small work in size, but immense in feeling, and a reminder that creativity is still one of the purest forms of freedom. Chorus is a spiritual journey disguised as a space war. At first glance, it looks like just another Starfighter game, but it soon reveals something far deeper. It puts you in the skin of a tormented pilot seeking redemption in a universe that seems as broken as she is. It's a story about guilt, forgiveness, and the struggle to break free from your own past. Space isn't empty here. It's a mirror of what's left of the soul. Piloting has rarely felt so satisfying. Ship movement is fluid, almost dance-like, and combat blends speed and precision with mastery. Every duel feels choreographed. Every maneuver carries emotional weight. The game makes you feel power and vulnerability at the same time, a combination that turns action into something almost poetic. To fight here is also to heal. Chorus's universe has a tragic beauty. Nebula, floating ruins, and forgotten temples form a setting that feels like a dream about to fade. The art direction leans on ethereal colors and strong contrasts, creating a visual spectacle that mixes melancholy with grandeur. There's serenity in the chaos, a calm in the middle of destruction, as if space were breathing with you. Chorus is more than action, it's redemption in motion. A game about facing the past without fear of getting lost along the way. It blends spirituality and destruction in a way few dare, intense, elegant, and emotional. It's a reminder that even in the universe's darkness, there is still room for light. Remnant from the Ashes proves that even in the middle of chaos, there's still room to start over. The world lies in ruins, ruled by grotesque creatures and landscapes that feel alive but corrupted. Everything breathes despair, yet also hope, the idea that it's still worth fighting, even when everything seems lost. The game balances action, horror, and survival in a way few have managed. Every encounter is a test of reflexes and patience. The shooting system feels like a Souls-like with guns, where the smallest mistake can be fatal. Every enemy is a real threat, and teamwork makes all the difference. The tension is constant, but the progression curve gives a powerful sense of mastery. When you win, it feels truly earned. You survived because you learned. The world design is a somber spectacle. Ruins covered by giant roots, dimensional portals, and creatures that defy logic form a universe as hostile as it is fascinating. There's something almost religious in how the game blends destruction and rebirth, as if each new area were an altar to pain and resilience. The quiet soundtrack and distant echoes reinforce the mood of absolute solitude. Remnant from the Ashes is about resilience, about the instinct to keep going even without knowing why. It doesn't guide you, it doesn't comfort you, it just gives you a cruel world and challenges you to endure it. It's difficult, unpredictable, and brutal, but also deeply rewarding. A reminder that the end isn't always the end, sometimes it's just the start of another fight. The Ascent is a headfirst dive into the guts of a collapsing future. A cyberpunk without glamour, where neon doesn't mask misery and megacorp control even the air you breathe. The game throws you into grime and decay, showing a world that shines on the outside but rots within. It's brutal, heavy, and visually striking, a dystopia that feels painfully possible. The gameplay blends frantic action and RPG elements with balance. Fights are intense, with explosions, heavy weapons, and a cover system that gives rhythm to the violence. Every mission pushes you deeper into the chaos, and the progress is steady. Abilities and gear change your playstyle, and the sense of power grows with each battle. Everything is dirty, violent, and incredibly satisfying. The visuals are a spectacle of excess. Vertical cities full of artificial lights, rain-slick alleys, and anonymous crowds create an almost suffocating atmosphere. The level of detail is absurd. Every sign, every reflection, every particle tells a story. The isometric camera, far from limiting, lends a cinematic charm to the scenes. It's like watching Blade Runner from behind a machine gun. The Ascent is about surviving in a world that's already given up on itself. It speaks of oppression, greed, and loneliness, but with an action rhythm that never lets you breathe. It's intense, bold, and incredibly well built. A game that may have flown under the radar, yet delivers what many only promise: a living, chaotic universe you won't forget. Hellpoint feels like it was born from a nightmare. Everything in it is cold, dark, and unsettling, as if every corridor hid a forbidden truth. The space station where it all happens seems alive, but sick, pulsing between science and religion. The game explains nothing. It just drops you into the void, expecting you to survive long enough to understand. And that's exactly what makes it so fascinating. Combat is heavy and deliberate. Every strike demands precision, and mistakes are costly. The weight of the weapons, the slow movement, and the constant threat of grotesque enemies turn fear into part of the mechanics. The Souls-like inspirations are clear, but Hellpoint has its own identity. The difficulty isn't punishment, it's language. The game wants you to feel lost, fragile, and curious at the same time. The design is what truly hypnotizes. Artificial lights flicker like signs of life in a dead body, and metallic environments feel like temples devoted to madness. There's something spiritual in the horror, as if the station were a metaphor for a human soul in decay. Every new sector is a piece of a cosmic puzzle, and the silence is as oppressive as the enemies waiting for you. Hellpoint is brutal, mysterious, and profoundly atmospheric. It makes you feel small before the unknown, as if the whole universe were watching. It isn't made to please, it's made to disturb. A work that blends philosophy and horror with elegance, leaving you with more questions than answers. And somehow that's exactly what makes it unforgettable. Sifu is pure expression of control, discipline, and persistence. It turns the concept of fighting into something far more spiritual than physical. Every battle is a dance of precision and error, where death doesn't mean the end, but learning. The game challenges you not only to defeat enemies, but to master yourself. Every fall is a lesson, and every victory is earned through sweat. It's brutal, but also meditative. The combat system is a work of art. Fast strikes, pinpoint parries, and dodges with perfect timing create a rhythm that feels like choreography. It's the kind of game that makes you feel the learning curve in your skin, from desperation to mastery. The character's age increases with each defeat, and with it wisdom. It's an elegant metaphor about time and the price of progress. The setting is a show of its own: nighttime neighborhoods, glowing clubs, silent temples, and scenes that feel pulled from an Eastern action film create a powerful visual experience. The use of color and light turns each fight into a dynamic painting. The art style is minimalist, yet full of identity. Every environment reflects the fighter's state of mind: anger, calm, redemption. Sifu is more than a martial arts game, it's a personal journey. It speaks about patience, growth, and the eternal struggle against your own ego. It's difficult, demanding, and at the same time rewarding in a way few games manage to be. When you finally master the rhythm, you realize the true enemy was never in front of you, but within. Returnal is a loop between pain, solitude, and discovery. A game that feels like a blend of nightmare and poetry, where space becomes a metaphor for the fragmented mind of someone trying to escape themselves. Every time you die, everything changes: the setting, the enemies, and the very meaning of the journey. The sense of starting over is more emotional than mechanical. Here, failing is part of the process. The gameplay is a whirlwind of reflexes and precision. Combat is fast, fluid, and intense, with gunfights that feel like interdimensional choreography. Alien weapons, attack patterns, and constant movement create an addictive flow. It's a fight against chaos, but also against time, a cycle where each second can be the last. And when the music and the rhythm align, the controller seems to disappear in your hands. The visuals are breathtaking. The planet pulses between beauty and despair, shifting from bioluminescent jungles to forgotten ruins and caves that feel alive. The atmosphere is dense, loaded with symbolism and melancholy. Light and sound work like characters. Silence is heavy, and every echo seems to have intent. It's a universe that watches you while you try to understand it. Returnal is about guilt, acceptance, and the attempt to break cycles, not only inside the game, but inside yourself. It blends science fiction and introspection with rare elegance, and when it ends, there's no relief, only understanding. One of the most intense and psychological titles ever made, proving that dying isn't always the end. Sometimes it's just the start of understanding why we live. Scarlet Nexus is pure energy condensed into a vibrant, chaotic world. It mixes science fiction, psychic powers, and human drama in a surprisingly cohesive way. The story talks about control, connection, and the manipulation of emotions in a society trying to tame the impossible. It's dynamic, colorful, and full of layers in both combat and narrative, a playable anime that beats with rhythm and feeling. The combat system is a spectacle of creativity. You combine physical attacks and telekinesis, hurling cars, rocks, and enemies through the air with impressive fluidity. Using allies and their abilities creates a genuine team feel. Everything is fast, responsive, and visually striking. With each new ability, the game reinvents itself, keeping you on the edge between control and chaos. The world design is insane. Futuristic cities drowned in lights, creatures that look torn from twisted dreams, and characters with impeccable aesthetics make the game shine. Saturated colors and the contrast between the technological and the biological create an unmistakable visual identity. It's a universe that seems to shout life, even when it talks about destruction. Scarlet Nexus is about empathy in a world trying to erase emotion. It makes you reflect on what connects us and how power and humanity can coexist. It's frenetic, beautiful, and emotionally more mature than it first appears. A game that mixes explosive action and sensitivity with rare confidence, showing how even chaos can have a heart. Lost in Random feels like it stepped out of a strange Tim Burton tale. It blends dark fantasy, social critique, and a good dose of melancholy to tell the story of a world ruled by luck, literally. Each person has their fate decided by a single die, and it's that absurd idea that makes everything work. It's a game about destiny, chaos, and the courage to challenge rules imposed by an unfair system. The gameplay is a smart mix of action and strategy. Card-based combat and the use of a magic die create a tense, unpredictable rhythm. Every fight becomes a small bet, a game of risk and reward where the unlikely always has a place. Arena design and enemy variety keep things fresh from start to finish. The combat feels strange at first, but soon proves addictive and full of nuance. The world is the true lead. Each district has its own look and madness, from cities split in two by rivalries to places where people live trapped in an eternal cycle of repetition. The art direction is magnificent, with caricatured characters and environments that feel like sculptures in motion. There's something theatrical and handmade in every detail, as if the game were molded by hand. Lost in Random is a fable about freedom and acceptance. It uses the absurd to talk about human themes, like fear and control, in a light, poetic way. It's dark, funny, and deeply creative. One of those titles that remind you why strangeness can also be beautiful. In the end, it shows that sometimes you have to bet everything to have a chance to be who you really are. GreedFall is an RPG carrying soul and ambition in every detail. Set on a newly discovered continent, it blends political intrigue, religion, and magic in a mature, engaging way. It's a story about colonization, faith, and the clash between culture and power, told with the weight of moral choices that are never simple. Every decision has consequences, and the game makes you feel responsible for every word spoken. The gameplay is deep and flexible. The combat system allows multiple paths, diplomacy, stealth, or brute force, and each one changes the pace of the adventure. The skill tree is vast and encourages experimentation, and the alliances you forge alter the world's fate. It's an RPG that respects your time and rewards curiosity. Here, progress is earned through intelligence, not haste. The setting is stunning, full of life and mystery. Mist-covered forests, sacred villages, and colonial cities create the sense of a real place, rich with stories and beliefs. The art direction mixes European realism with dark fantasy, resulting in a visually hypnotic universe. The feeling of exploring unknown territory is constant and exciting. GreedFall is a love letter to classic RPGs, but with its own voice. It talks about ambition, humanity, and the price of decisions with rare sensitivity in the genre. It doesn't try to compete with giants, it prefers to tell a good story with weight and purpose. And it's precisely that honesty that makes it so striking. A game that proves soul matters more than budget. Control is a trip through the inexplicable. A game that starts with questions and ends with even more, but in a way that leaves you fascinated. The building where it all happens is alive, mutable, and seems to breathe while it watches your every step. The feeling is being trapped inside a bureaucratic nightmare where nothing follows logic and sanity is only a hypothesis. It's a game about power, but also about identity. The gameplay is a spectacle of telekinesis and controlled destruction. Every new power changes how you see the space. Walls stop being barriers and become weapons. Combat is fluid and hypnotic, blending gunfights and object manipulation into a chaotic ballet. Everything responds with weight and impact, and physics becomes part of the narrative. Destroying here is as beautiful as it is necessary. The world design is what truly hooks you. The contrast between brutalist architecture and paranormal phenomena creates a unique, cold, surreal aesthetic. Every room seems to hide a secret, every document is a clue to something bigger. Sound echoes as if the building itself were speaking, and in a way it does. It's an atmosphere that pulls you in and won't let go. Control is about accepting the absurd and finding meaning in the impossible. A game that plays with perception, reality, and the fear of the unknown. It doesn't hand you easy answers, but makes you want to understand every detail. It's strange, elegant, and powerful. A work that blends science fiction, horror, and mystery in a way only Remedy could, and that lingers long after it ends. Get Even is the kind of game that makes you doubt everything, even yourself. What starts as a simple kidnapping case soon turns into a deep psychological investigation where memory and reality intertwine. The story is fragmented, full of gaps and twists that force you to question what's real. It feels like being trapped inside a lucid nightmare where every memory comes with a price. The gameplay blends investigation, stealth, and action in subtle ways. The focus is on observing, understanding, and connecting the dots, not just surviving. The special camera that records sounds and clues turns you into both detective and subject. There are gunfights, yes, but it's the choices and revelations that truly weigh on you. The game wants you to feel guilt, and it succeeds masterfully. The atmosphere is thick and oppressive. Abandoned hospitals, grimy corridors, and environments that dissolve before your eyes create a constant sense of instability. The art direction uses discomfort as a storytelling tool. Nothing can be trusted. Not the walls, not the voices, not even time. It feels like the entire world is a fading memory. Get Even is about regret, trauma, and the need to face the past. It doesn't scare with cheap tricks, but with painful truths. Disturbing, emotional, and deeply human, it's one of those games that end in silence, the kind that lingers because the story truly hits something inside you. Prey is a masterclass in atmosphere and paranoia. From the first minute, it traps you aboard an isolated space station where nothing is what it seems. The feeling of being watched never fades, even when the hallway looks empty. The creatures that disguise themselves as everyday objects turn the ordinary into pure terror. Everything is suspicious. Everything is dangerous, and that's what makes it brilliant. The gameplay mixes freedom and tension like few others. You can approach every situation in countless ways, hacking systems using alien powers, or simply improvising with whatever you find. That flexibility makes each attempt unique. The station itself behaves like a living organism, reacting to your choices. Nothing feels random, and every step carries real consequences. The design is impeccable. Talos Eye is a character on its own, cold, elegant, and deadly. Each floor tells a different story, and the attention to detail turns even exploration into constant pleasure. The blend of Art Deco and science fiction creates a look that feels like a 1960s dream designed by a modern nightmare. It's a place where fear and curiosity walk side by side. Prey is about identity, control, and the price of knowledge. It makes you question who you are and how far you'd go to survive. The writing is sharp, the pacing is precise, and the emotional impact runs deep. It's a game that quietly gets under your skin, making you doubt even yourself. Few titles manage to turn distrust into art. This is one of them. Pathologic 2 turns discomfort into art. It doesn't want to entertain you, it wants to test you physically, emotionally, and morally. You arrive in a city on the brink of collapse, consumed by a deadly plague, and quickly realize there's no way to save everyone. Death isn't failure, it's routine. Survival tastes bitter, and every choice feels wrong. It's social and human chaos at its purest form. The gameplay is slow, heavy, and deliberately cruel. Hunger, exhaustion, and despair are as much enemies as disease and people. The game forces you to face the pain of impossible choices. Helping one person means letting another die. There are no heroes, only survivors. Every action weighs on you, and guilt becomes constant. It's a simulator of humanity unraveling. The world is grotesque and poetic at once. The city feels alive, yet dying before your eyes. Streets filled with dust, superstition, and faces that have already given up hope. The design blends realism and symbolism perfectly. Everything feels strange, yet makes sense within that sick logic. Both sound and silence are suffocating. You can't escape the weight of this place. Pathologic 2 is a cruel mirror of our own nature. It reveals the worst and best of people when everything is falling apart. It's a game about accepting helplessness and still choosing to fight. Disturbing, philosophical, and painfully human. It offers no comfort, only truth. And sometimes that's exactly what we need to face. And that's why it's worth giving a chance to the game you left behind. Sometimes what seemed like just another title ends up being exactly what you needed to play. Each of these reminded me how powerful the unexpected still is and how a truly great game can surprise you in ways no review or score ever could. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like and subscribe to the channel to keep the project going strong. It really helps bring more lists and discoveries that are worth your time. And tell me in the comments which game surprised you the most when you finally decided to play it. I'll see you in the next one, enjoy your gameplay, and see you tomorrow.